Okay, so you're thinking about trying therapy,
Okay.
which is great.
Yeah.
But then that little voice pops up.
Right.
Like, what if it's just gaslighting myself into feeling better?
Yeah.
You know, it's a question a lot of us have, I think.
Absolutely.
And this YouTube video you sent from Healthy Gamer G,
Mm-hmm.
it like dives right into that.
It does, and I think what's so clever about it is how it kind of flips the script on gaslighting.
Okay.
Because we usually think of it as something that someone else is doing to us, right?
Right.
Someone else is gaslighting us, but the video suggests that these negative beliefs we carry around, like the I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, stuff that might actually be the gaslighting already in action,
Wow.
often rooted in our childhood experiences.
Okay, so not therapy is the bad guy here, but potentially our own past.
Yeah.
That's a pretty different way of looking at it.
It is, yeah, and they use this really great example in the video of a child learning to walk.
Okay.
They fall down constantly, right?
Yeah, they do, yeah.
But they don't think of themselves as failures. They just get back up and try again.
Yeah.
It's often messages from others, like parents, for example, that plant those seeds of self-doubt early on.
Yeah, and the video doesn't shy away from some of those tougher scenarios either, like
It doesn't.
parents tying their own happiness to their kids' achievements and stuff.
Absolutely. And that's where this idea of undoing the gaslighting comes into play.
Okay.
The video argues that therapy can help us identify these ingrained beliefs and crucially challenge whether they're actually true or just something we've learned to accept as truth.
It's like that example they give in the video about the person at the Christmas party,
Yes.
comparing their success to their friend who's already a doctor.
Right.
And instead of celebrating, their own achievements,
Yeah.
they just feel inadequate.
Exactly. And it highlights how seeking external validation can leave us with like this really fleeting sense of self-esteem, always dependent on others to give us that sense of worth.
Right.
And the video brings in this really interesting yogic perspective on this.
Okay.
With Manas, Buddhi, and Ahamkara, basically emotions, intellect, and ego.
Okay, so break that down for me.
Yeah.
How do those three things relate to each other and like this whole gaslighting thing?
Yeah, so imagine this. Manas, your emotions can sometimes be like a runaway train, right?
Sure.
Especially negative ones. And they can completely hijack your Buddhi, your intellect, and just totally distort your thinking. And the ahamkara, your ego, well, it loves to pile on, constantly seeking validation, comparing itself to others, which only fuels the fire.
So this is vicious cycle.
Exactly.
Our past experiences create these negative beliefs.
Mm.
Our emotions distort our thinking, and then our ego just jumps in to reinforce those negative thoughts.
Exactly, and that's where things can get really tricky, but here's the good news.
Yeah.
The video suggests that therapy isn't about forcing ourselves into some fake positive mindset.
Okay.
It's about removing those pre-existing distortions, those echoes of past gaslighting, so we can see ourselves' strengths and weaknesses more clearly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about just slapping on a happy face and pretending everything's fine, right?
Right.
It's more about understanding how those like deeper thought patterns might be holding us back.
Yeah, exactly. And the video even talks about how those early experiences, especially with like effort and reward, can really get messed up by gaslighting.
What do you mean by messed up? Could you give an example?
Sure. Think about a child who is constantly trying to please their parents, putting in tons of effort, but never seems to get that positive reinforcement.
Okay.
They might internalize this idea that their efforts are meaningless, that no matter how hard they try, it'll never be good enough.
And then they carry that belief into adulthood, affecting how they approach challenges, relationships, everything.
Exactly. They might self-sabotage, avoid taking risks, or just give up easily because they've already internalized that message of what's the point of trying.
Right.
And that's where the video argues that therapy can be so powerful. It's about helping us untangle those deeply rooted beliefs and recognize them for what they often are, echoes of past gaslighting rather than some inherent truth about ourselves.
It's almost like therapy becomes a process of reclaiming your own story,
Yeah.
Like you're taking back the pen from those external voices that have been writing your narrative for you.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to rewrite those narratives, to challenge those old beliefs, and choose a different story for ourselves.
The video uses this phrase that I found really interesting. Self-esteem is taught, not discovered.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how much those early interactions really shape our sense of self-worth.
Absolutely. And it even gives this other example of, Kids whose parents really celebrated their achievements and made sure they felt supported and loved unconditionally. Those kids are more likely to grow up with a strong sense of self-esteem because they've internalized that message of worthiness from their early experiences.
Whereas someone who didn't get that consistent validation might end up seeking it in all the wrong places, right?
Totally.
Like through achievements, appearances, social media, things that can never really provide that lasting sense of self-worth.
Exactly. It becomes this endless chase for external validation, always dependent on others to make us feel good about ourselves.
Right.
And because it's coming from outside, it's always going to be fleeting and conditional.
So how do we break free from that cycle? If it all starts with these early experiences, how do we go back and unteach ourselves those negative beliefs?
That's where understanding the yogic perspective can come in handy.
Okay.
Remember Manas Buddhi and Ahamkara?
Right? The runaway train, the hijacked intellect, and the ego adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. The video emphasizes the importance of becoming aware of how these three aspects of ourselves interact and influence our thoughts and behaviors.
Okay.
It's not just about removing those negative beliefs, but also about understanding how our minds, especially our egos, can distort reality.
So being able to catch ourselves in those moments when we're comparing ourselves to others, putting ourselves down, or even like inflating our own importance.
Exactly. Anytime you find yourself thinking, I'm better than or I'm worse than, that's the ego at play.
Wow.
And the first step to breaking free from its grip is simply becoming aware of those thought patterns.
Like that feeling you get when you see someone on social media who's achieved something amazing and you instantly feel that pang of, I could never do that.
Yes. That's a perfect example of the ego talk. Yeah.
The video encourages us to challenge those thoughts.
Okay.
Instead of, I could never, maybe it's, I could learn, or I might need to approach it differently. But that knee-jerk defeatist attitude is often the internalized gaslighting rearing its head.
And that brings us back to how therapy can help us undo that gaslighting, right?
It does.
It's about learning to recognize those distorted thought patterns and then consciously choosing to reframe them.
Precisely. The video uses this great analogy of a computer.
Okay.
If the software is corrupted, it doesn't matter how powerful the hardware is. The system won't function properly.
Right.
Therapy, in a way, is about debugging that software, identifying and correcting those faulty thought patterns that keep us stuck. So it's not about trying to be positive all the time. It's about taking a step back and questioning our thoughts, figuring out where they're coming from, and then deciding if we even believe them.
Exactly. The video reminds us that we are not our thoughts. We are the observer of our thoughts. That's a really powerful distinction to make.
It's almost like we have this power to hit the pause button on those automatic negative thoughts, right?
Exactly.
Instead of just blindly accepting them,
Yeah.
we can choose to examine them and decide if they're actually true or just some old software running in the background. But that takes practice, right? It's not like we can just flip a switch and suddenly become aware of every thought we have.
You're absolutely right. The video really emphasizes the importance of self-awareness. It's not about waiting for someone else to tell us we're worthy or capable. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose our own beliefs.
It's about taking control of that narrative, like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And the video talks about therapy as a really valuable tool in this process.
Yeah.
But it's not the only one. It also emphasizes self-reflection, mindfulness, even meditation practices that can help us become more aware of our thoughts and emotions.
There was the one part in the video where they talk about noticing the impact of emotion.
Yes.
Such an important point.
Because it's like, we can't just pretend our feelings aren't there, right? We have to acknowledge them, understand how they're influencing our thoughts, and then make conscious choices about how we respond instead of letting our emotions kind of call the shots.
Right. The video uses this great analogy. It's like trying to drive a car with a blindfold on.
Okay.
You might think you're going straight, but you're probably headed for a crash.
Yeah. If we're not aware of our emotions, we're not really thinking clearly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about suppressing our emotions or pretending to be happy all the time, but about learning to relate to our feelings, good and bad, in a more mindful way. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. It's about asking ourselves, what am I feeling right now? And how is this feeling shaping my thoughts and behaviors? That simple act of awareness can be incredibly powerful in breaking free from those old patterns of thinking and behaving. And the video even gives some really relatable examples of how easily our emotions can cloud our judgment. Like that scenario with the person who gets ghosted after a date.
Oh, yeah.
And immediately jumps to the conclusion that I am unlovable.
Ouch. Yeah, been there.
It's such a common experience, but the video reminds us that those thoughts are usually driven by fear and insecurity. Past hurt's not objective reality.
So instead of spiraling into a pit of self-doubt, the video suggests we try to approach those thoughts with a little more curiosity and compassion.
Exactly. Like, okay, I'm feeling rejected right now. That makes sense. Rejection hurts. But does that mean I'm unlovable? Not necessarily.
Feel your feelings, but don't let them be the boss of you.
Oh, I love that. Such a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to our emotions and the thoughts that they create.
So to wrap things up for our listener today, if you're considering therapy, remember, it's not about tricking yourself into feeling good all the time. It's about dismantling the gaslighting, whether it came from others or ourselves, that's been holding you back. It's about learning to see yourself and your experiences with more clarity, compassion, and honesty. And this video you shared offers a really insightful perspective on how to do just that.
It definitely does. And if there's one thing I hope our listener takes away from this deep dive, the understanding that they have the power to choose their own beliefs and write their own story. That's a powerful realization, and it can be incredibly liberating.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, we'll leave you with this thought. If you're constantly seeking validation from external sources, ask yourself, what would it look like to cultivate that validation from within? That's something to ponder as you continue on your journey of self-discovery.